The slave market on planet Varlin was always busy. Aliens from many worlds came to buy workers, pets, or playthings. Some were strong, some beautiful, and some broken. A line of slaves stood under the burning twin suns. Each had chains on, their arms and collars on their necks. The crowd shouted prices, some laughing, others shouting cruel words. Then she was brought out. The alien girl looked different from the others. Her clothes were torn. Her skin was covered in dirt. Her hair was tangled like old ropes. She didn't cry or scream. She just looked down at the ground, silent and still. The auctioneer raised his voice. Next up, female, unknown species, no name, no past. Barely alive. Starting price, 10 credits. The crowd laughed. 10? She's not worth 10 crumbs. She can't even stand properly. I'd pay 1 credit just to burn her. The auctioneer tried again. 5 credits. But no one raised a hand. The girl trembled. Her legs were thin. She tried to stand tall but wobbled. A bruise marked her cheek and one eye was almost swollen shut. Still, she said nothing. Not even a sound. 2 credits. Anyone? Come on, someone must want her. Silence. Then, from the back, a voice spoke, calm, deep. 1 credit. Heads turned. A man stepped forward, tall, human, with a long coat and tired eyes. He looked like a traveler, maybe a soldier, maybe something else. No one knew his name. He didn't smile. He didn't laugh. He just looked at the girl with quiet eyes. The auctioneer blinked. Sold. 1 credit. Another laugh rose from the crowd. 1 credit for that trash? What's he going to do, feed her to his dog? The human walked to the platform. He reached into his coat and placed a small credit chip into the auctioneer's hand. Then, he looked at the girl. She didn't move. He bent down and gently unchained her wrists. She flinched but didn't run. She didn't even look at him. Her body was weak, her spirit broken. Come, he said. She looked up, confused. His voice was not loud, not angry. Just calm. Slowly she followed him, bare feet dragging in the dust. The market kept laughing behind them. They walked through empty streets. The girl's head stayed low. She waited for the beating. That's how it always started. First, they act kind. Then they punish. But the man said nothing. He took her to a small house on the edge of the city. Not rich, not poor. Just clean and quiet. He opened the door and stepped inside. She stood outside, unsure. Was it a trick? He looked back at her. Come in, you need food. She didn't move. He nodded once, then walked in. A few seconds later, she stepped inside, slow, careful, ready to run if needed. Inside, it was warm. Not hot like the streets. A soft light filled the room. A chair, a bed, a table. It was the first peaceful place she had seen in years. He pointed to the corner. There's water. Drink. She looked at the clean cup. Her hands shook as she picked it up. The water was cold. She drank fast, coughing, like someone who hadn't tasted clean water in a long time. He went to the kitchen and brought a small plate. Bread and soup. He placed it on the table. Eat. She stared at it, suspicious. Maybe it was drugged? He didn't force her. He just sat down nearby and opened a book. He didn't watch her. He didn't rush her. After a long minute, she sat and began to eat slowly at first. Then faster. She ate like someone afraid the food would vanish. The man waited. When she finished, she looked up. Her lips parted. Her voice was dry, barely a whisper. Why? The human closed his book. He looked at her and said, no one deserves to be treated like trash. She didn't understand. No one had ever said such a thing to her. He stood up. There's a bath. You can clean yourself. Towels are inside. She followed his hand to a small room. Steam was already rising. She walked toward it, then stopped at the door. She turned to look at him. Are you going to watch me? She asked in a broken voice. He shook his head. No, I'll be in the other room. She entered the bathroom, the door closed behind her. She stood there, staring at the warm water. And for the first time in years, she cried. In the other room, the man sat by the window. The market's laughter still echoed in his ears. But he knew what they didn't. This girl was not worthless, and he would prove it. She woke up in a bed. Soft sheets, a warm blanket, a ceiling with no cracks. For a moment, she thought she had died. Was this some kind of dream? Then the smell of food touched her nose. She sat up quickly, heart pounding. Her hands grabbed the blanket, expecting chains. But there were none. Her body still hurt, but it was clean now. Her skin didn't itch from dust. Her hair, someone had washed it. She looked around the small room, a folded shirt, a clean towel, a cup of water next to the bed. And on the far wall a coat hanging by the door. His coat. She remembered the market, the laughters, the word sold. And him, the human who didn't walk away. She stepped out of the room slowly, careful not to make a sound. She found him in the kitchen, back turned, frying something in a pan. He was humming a tune. Old, soft human music. He didn't turn to look at her. You're awake, he said calmly. She froze. He placed a plate on the table. Bread, eggs, something that smelled like tea. Can sit, he said. It's for you. She didn't move. He glanced at her now. You're safe here. I won't touch you. Those words. She had heard them before from monsters, but something in his voice felt different. No command, no threat, just stillness. She slowly sat down, watched him. He took his own plate and sat across from her. Quiet, calm, like this was normal. She picked up a piece of bread. You washed me while I was asleep, she said quietly, without looking at him. No, he replied. I only cleaned the wounds. The rest you were too weak to do it yourself. Double quote silence. She looked up. Why did you buy me? He didn't answer right away. He sipped his tea. Then he said, because no one else would. And you didn't belong. There. She blinked. I'm broken. No, he said. You're tired. After breakfast, he handed her a simple gray dress. No chains. No collar. She held it like a precious thing. There's a garden outside, he said, if you want air. You're not going to lock me in? She asked. He shook his head. You're not a prisoner. That made her pause. She didn't understand. This man, every master before him wanted power, control, pain. But this one? He gave freedom. She went to the garden. The sky above was quiet, blue, soft. Not like the red fire skies of the slave camps. She sat on the grass, touched the flowers with shaking fingers. They didn't burn, they didn't bite, and yet something inside her hurt, because she didn't know what to do with kindness. That night, she stood outside his room, watching the door. Was he sleeping? Was this a trick? She crept to the table. Her eyes scanned the room, a data pad, some books, a cup. Then she saw it, a photo. Humans in armor, soldiers, standing together with smiles on a battlefield. One of them was him, younger, stronger. The other man had the same eyes, maybe a brother. On the back of the photo, a message: protect the weak. It's what we do. She put the photo back slowly. So he was a soldier once. That explained the way he moved, controlled, alert. But why was he here? Living alone? Buying someone like her? Suddenly, his voice came from the dark behind her. Couldn't sleep? She jumped. I know, I just ... I was thirsty, she lied. He walked past her to the kitchen, poured a glass of water and handed it to her. Don't have to lie, he said gently. You're safe now. You don't have to be afraid anymore. She took the water and stared at the floor. I'm not used to kindness, she whispered. I figured, he replied. But it's not kindness, it's respect. She looked up confused. You're alive. That's enough reason to be treated like a person. Those words hit harder than any slap she had ever received. That night, she sat in her room. Awake. No chains. No guards. Just her thoughts. And a question that wouldn't leave her mind. What kind of human treats a slave like a guest? She didn't know the answer. But maybe, just maybe, she was starting to want to find out. She waited for him to fall asleep. The house was quiet. The soft ticking of a wall clock. The wind brushing past the windows. No footsteps, no voices. Just silence. He had left the front door unlocked on purpose that she had seen it. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe he was testing her, or maybe he truly meant what he said. But broken people don't believe in freedom. She rose from the bed slowly. Barefoot, careful, her body still weak, but her mind racing. 1 step. 2 steps. She reached the door and placed her hand on the knob. Her heart beat like a drum in her chest. She looked back once. No one stood behind her. No chain. No shout. Just quiet. And that scared her more than pain ever did. Outside, the air was cold. The sky above held no stars tonight. She pulled the thin blanket tighter around herself and started walking. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't care. Anywhere was better than being someone's property again. That's what she told herself. Her feet dragged through dust. Sharp stones cut her skin. But she kept going. Memories haunted her with every step, faces laughing, hands grabbing, whips cracking. You're worthless. You're broken. No one wants you. She walked until her legs gave up. And then, in the middle of nowhere, under a lonely tree, she collapsed. The human found her before sunrise. She didn't hear his footsteps, didn't feel him lifting her into his arms. She only opened her eyes when warm light hit her face, and realized she was in the same bed, back in the same house, back where she tried to escape from. She gasped, sat up. Her body ached. Her feet were bandaged. Her blanket warmed. And then she saw him. He was sitting by the window, reading again. Just like before. Calm, quiet, like nothing had happened. You found me, she whispered. He nodded, not looking up. I didn't want to come back. I know, she frowned. Then why did you bring me back? He finally looked at her. Because you collapsed. You could have died. She looked down, ashamed, angry, confused. I thought you'd hit me. He didn't answer. She waited, but there was no anger in his eyes, no cruel smile, just tiredness. And something else. Something that looked like understanding. Later, he placed breakfast on the table again. She didn't eat right away. She just stared at him. You didn't ask me why. I ran. No, he said. You had your reasons. She clenched her fists. You should have punished me. Do you want to be punished? Her voice cracked. No, but that's what happens. That's what always happens. He leaned forward. I'm not them. She couldn't look him in the eyes. Then who are you? She asked. He stood up and said only one thing before walking away. Someone who doesn't want to own you. Just help you remember who you are. She sat in the quiet kitchen, holding the warm cup between her hands. She didn't cry this time. She didn't smile either. But deep inside her chest, something began to move, something small, something like hope. That evening, she stepped out into the garden. The flowers were opening under the sun. She knelt down and touched one softly. It didn't wilt. She stayed there until sunset. And when she walked back into the house, she didn't look at the door. She didn't plan another escape. Not because she had no choice, but because this time, she had one. Asterisk. That night, the stars returned to the sky. She sat on the porch alone, staring at them. They looked cold, far away, like eyes that had watched her suffer and done nothing. The wind brushed against her arms, and for a moment, she forgot where she was. Forgot she was safe. Because memories don't leave quietly. They return like whispers in the dark. And tonight, they screamed. She remembered a cage made of metal. No windows. No light, just heat and chains. She was younger then. Not yet broken. Not yet numb. She had tried to escape once. The punishment was fire. Not enough to kill. Just enough to remind her she belonged to someone else. A sharp cry escaped her lips. Human heard it from inside. He stepped out. Quiet as always, but this time she didn't hide. She didn't wipe her tears. She just said one word: fire. He didn't speak. She looked at him, eyes red, voice shaking. They burned me. He walked over, sat beside her, but didn't touch her. Didn't say sorry, didn't pretend to understand. He just listened. That was enough. They said it was training, she whispered. But it was control. Pain was their leash. He nodded slowly. I still smell the smoke sometimes, even when it's not there. He looked at her for a long moment. I smell it too, he said quietly. She blinked. You? I was a soldier once, he said. We raided a slave camp. Too late. We found burned bodies, some still alive. He looked at the stars now. I carried one girl out. She begged me to throw her back. She thought pain was the only thing left for her. Silence. What happened to her? She asked. He gave a bitter smile. She lived, grew strong, started saving others. Maybe pain isn't the end. Later, she walked back inside. Something inside her felt lighter, but the ghosts weren't gone. That night, she dreamed of chains again, but this time, something strange happened. In the dream, when the fire came, the human stood between her and the flames. Morning came with golden light. She stood in the mirror and touched her scars. They were still there, but now, they weren't just marks of pain. They were marks of survival. He found her in the kitchen, already boiling water. He raised an eyebrow. You're cooking? She gave a half smile. Trying, he sat down. Looks like you're learning fast. She stirred the pot and looked over. Was your world better than this one? He paused. No world is better, just people. She thought about that. Then asked, why do you live here alone? He didn't answer right away. Finally he said, because sometimes you can't save everyone, and the guilt is heavy. She nodded slowly. But you saved me. He looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time he smiled. Maybe saving one is enough. As the soup cooked, she looked down at her hands. The same hands that once carried rocks for cruel masters. Now stirring food. Now healing. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she was becoming someone again. It was just after noon. The girl was in the garden, barefoot, her fingers buried in the soil. She liked how the earth felt warm, soft, real. Here, she was learning to feel again. Inside the house, the human was fixing a broken chair. Quiet work. Simple life. Then came the knock. 3 slow, heavy knocks. Not like a friend, like a warning. The girl froze. Her fingers tightened in the dirt. The man stood up calmly, but his hand moved toward the small metal box under the table. He opened the door, and the past walked in. He was tall, dressed in polished armor. His skin was pale blue. His eyes were gold and cold. An alien noble. One of them. He looked around with disgust. This place is small. The human said nothing. Then the noble's eyes landed on the girl standing in the doorway, hands trembling. A cruel smile formed on his face. Well, look what the dust blew back. She stepped behind the human without a word. The noble laughed. Did she tell you? She used to crawl on the floor for scraps. We used to throw food at her like an animal. The human's jaw tightened. She was useless. Wouldn't talk, wouldn't fight, just cried. His voice dripped with poison. So we sold her for nothing. One credit, wasn't it? The human stepped forward. Say what you came to say. The noble chuckled. I came to offer you a deal. She's still property of House Veltar. That sale was not official. Return her, and we won't report you to the council." The girl's heart dropped. The council. That meant power. That meant chains. She couldn't breathe. The human didn't move. Didn't blink. "She's not going anywhere," he said coldly. The noble raised an eyebrow. "She's a slave. You bought a corpse with legs. You really think she's worth defending?" The human replied with a voice like steel. "She's worth more than your entire house." Silence. Then the noble's smile vanished. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "You can't hide her forever." He turned and left. The door closed with a soft click, but the girl was already shaking. That night, she sat by the window, knees pulled to her chest. She hadn't spoken since the noble left. The human came over and sat beside her. She whispered, "He's telling the truth. I was nothing." He looked at her. "No one is born nothing." She shook her head. "They hurt me, broke me. I couldn't even scream." "But you're still here," he said. She looked at him. "You're still breathing, still fighting." "That means something," her voice cracked. "What if they come back? Then I'll be here too." Later that night, she had a choice. She could run again, disappear into the night, but she didn't. Instead, she placed a blanket at the window and stayed there, watching for shadows, guarding the house that made her feel human again. And though her body was still healing, something else had changed. She was no longer hiding behind the human. She was starting to stand beside him. Asterisk. The girl had seen many men break others, but this man, he fixed things. Chairs, walls, her soul. And now, she wanted to know why. One morning, while he was out gathering supplies, she found the door to his study open. She had never entered before. He never locked it. Still, she had always stayed away, but today, curiosity whispered louder than fear. She stepped inside. The room was quiet. Dust danced in the sunlight. On the shelves, books, medals, and a folded flag with strange human symbols. On the desk, a box. She opened it slowly. Inside were old photos. Cracked, faded. 2 men in armor. One of them was him, standing tall, proud, alive. The other man looked just like him, only younger. A note was tucked behind the picture. "Forgive yourself. You couldn't save me, but you're saving others now." Her fingers tightened. Suddenly she understood. He returned an hour later. She didn't run. She stood in his study, holding the photo. "I saw your brother," she said softly. He didn't look surprised. His eyes looked like yours. He sat down. "We were soldiers, peacekeepers, trained to protect the weak, but on one mission we failed." She sat too, across from him, quiet, listening. "There was a slave transport. We found it, burning. We tried to break the cages open. My brother pulled out 6 prisoners." He paused. "I went back for more, but the ship exploded. He died saving people he never knew." His voice didn't shake, but his eyes. They told the truth. "He believed everyone deserves a second chance," the man said. "That's why I bought you, not out of pity, but because I saw you still had fight in your eyes." She looked down. "I thought I had nothing left. You still had life." That night, something in her changed. He wasn't just kind. He was broken too. Not in the way she was, but in a way that made her feel less alone. Later, she asked him, "Do you regret saving me?" He didn't answer right away. Then with a gentle voice he said, "No, I only regret not finding you sooner." She covered her face, tears slipping through her fingers. For the first time, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of being seen. The next day, she helped him in the garden. She was stronger now, walking without trembling, speaking more, smiling. Sometimes, she had never thought planting flowers could feel like victory. But each seed was a tiny rebellion against the life she had escaped. That evening, while drying dishes, she said, "When they come again, I'll fight too." He looked at her. "You sure?" I'm not going back, ever. And in her eyes, he saw it, the fire they never could kill, but far beyond their home, in a dark room on a cold planet. The noble who once called her trash was speaking to someone far more dangerous. She's alive and protected by a human. A low voice growled, then burn the protection and bring her back. The morning was too quiet. Birds didn't sing. The wind didn't move. Even the flowers in the garden seemed to hold their breath. The girl stood by the window, fingers clenched. She could feel it in her bones. They were coming. And this time, they wouldn't knock. The human stepped beside her, loading a small blaster and sliding a knife into his boot. They'll try to take you, he said. But they'll go through me first. She shook her head. Not this time. I'm not hiding. He turned. You're sure? Her eyes, once broken, once empty, now burned like twin suns. I'm not their slave anymore. When the attack came, it wasn't subtle. A flash of light. A deep humming sound. A black ship landed just beyond the garden. Out stepped soldiers, armed, cold-eyed, led by the same noble who once called her worthless, but this time, she stood tall. The noble sneered. So, you think one human can stop a strike team? The human stepped forward. No. Then the girl stepped beside him. She's not alone. The noble laughed. This is your stand? A runaway and a washed-up soldier. He raised his hand. The guards moved in. But what they didn't expect was her, the girl. Once too weak to walk, now moved like fire. She grabbed the shovel she'd used in the garden, ducked the first strike, and slammed it into the nearest guard's face. The human fought beside her, fast, clean, deadly. His past training came alive. They moved as one, protecting, covering, trusting. And in the chaos, the noble shouted, "She belongs to me." Her voice sliced through the noise. No one owns me. She picked up a fallen blaster. The noble took one step toward her, and she fired. Not to kill, but to end the fear. The bolt burned past his cheek, just enough to make him fall back. The crowd that had gathered watched in silence. Not one stepped in to help the noble. The human walked to the noble and tossed a single coin at his feet. 1 credit. That's what you sold her for. He looked around at the guards. You'll leave, or you'll be buried here. They didn't wait. They left their leader and ran. The noble stumbled away alone, holding his scorched face. This time, he was the one who looked worthless. Later, the sun returned. The girl stood in the garden again, bruised but standing. The neighbors, once silent, came with food, tools, even flowers. No longer seeing her as a slave, but as someone who fought back, someone who earned their respect. That evening, as the human repaired the gate, she handed him water and smiled. "You said I was worth more than a house," she said. "You were wrong." He looked at her. "You're worth more than a world." The stars rose, soft and silver above them. She sat on the porch, leaning against his shoulder. And for the first time in her life, she didn't wonder who she was. She knew she was not a slave, not broken, not forgotten. She was alive, loved, free, and in the heart of the man who saw her when no one else did. She was priceless.